Emergent Ecology, April 26th. I want to begin with a confession. I've always found it hard to preach about Earth Day. I've always struggled with it. Why is that? Let me see if I can tell you why by way of an analogy that is also a Unitarian history lesson. William Ellery Channing was the most influential Unitarian minister of the 19th century. For 39 years, he served the Federal Street Church in Boston. During the course of Channing's life, he became more and more committed to the abolition of slavery. Yet, when he spoke out about his abolitionist views, he alienated members of his own church, especially the wealthiest members. Channing served a northern church, but his members included bankers and investors who had a financial stake in the ships that brought enslaved people in chains across the Atlantic and then brought the products of their stolen labor back the other way. His members included owners of textile factories that turned southern cotton into cloth. When Channing became an outspoken abolitionist, he was talking about overturning a system. Overturning a system that was very comfortable and very lucrative for some of his members. And because those wealthy members contributed to his church, Channing's own livelihood was tied to slavery. His conflict with his own congregation came to a head in January of 1840 when his board told him he couldn't hold a funeral for a prominent abolitionist. Channing's response was to boycott going to work, renounce his salary, and spend the last 2.5 years of his life as a teacher of public morality, speaking out all across Boston against the entire system of slavery, including the system that his congregants participated in. Many Unitarian contemporaries of Channing experimented with methods of separation, methods of purifying their own life to see if they could separate themselves from the slave economy. Some attempted to grow beets for sugar so they would not have to buy sugar plantation sugar. Some wore only wool so they would not have to buy slave cotton for cloth. Some even attempted experiments in communal living, such as Brook Farm, Hopedale, and Fruitlands. And these experiments in communal living were designed to create a pure economy, a pure society, entirely apart from the slave economy. I think I understand a bit of Channing's conflict. You see, in the first church that I served as minister, a number of the most active members in the church made their livings working for major engineering companies that designed and built coal-fired power plants. And I say that not to speak with judgment, but as fact. And I experienced some sense of existential conflict around this. It wasn't so much how do I talk about climate change when I'm talking to people who work for companies that directly contribute to climate change. It was how do I talk about climate change when I myself was an indirect beneficiary of the burning of fossil fuels? Did that not make me a hypocrite? You see, for a while, part of me was tempted to believe that the answer to global climate change required personal purity. Personal purity might mean recycling or bringing reusable shopping bags to the grocery store. It might mean switching to locally sourced plant-based diet. It might mean, if you have wealth, buying an electric car or putting up solar panels or divesting from fossil fuels. It might mean living in a smaller house or not traveling by plane. But whatever it meant that if I could become personally pure, if I could in my own life minimize my own impact on the earth, and that would give me the freedom to speak out. I actually have a UU minister friend who hasn't been on an airplane in 2 decades. He says that flying is inconsistent with his environmental views, so he doesn't fly. I respect him a lot. And personal purity alone does not create systemic change. Living greener is awesome and good. Recycling, reusing, reducing is awesome and good. Lowering your own carbon footprint is awesome and good. And at the same time, even if we were to become perfect, personal purity would not create systemic change. My inner conflictedness was not so much about my own failures of purity. I fail that purity test in so many ways. No, rather, my own inner conflictedness was about realizing that I would forever be a part of a system, that I could not make myself so pure that I wouldn't be connected to this system. There's a powerful poem by the great Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh called "Please Call Me by My True Names." And I think, reading Thich Nhat Hanh's poem, I think what he is talking about is this sense in which we are forever connected. Hear Thich Nhat Hanh's words. "The rhythm of my heart is the birth and death of all that is alive. I am a mayfly metamorphosing on the surface of the river, and I am the bird that swoops down to swallow the mayfly. I am a frog swimming happily in the clear water of a pond, and I am a grass snake that silently feeds itself on the frog. I am the child in Uganda, all skin and bones, my legs as thin as bamboo sticks. And I am the arms merchant, selling deadly weapons to Uganda." Thich Nhat Hanh continues in his poem, offering a number of troubling images, and then concludes, "Please call me by my true names, so I can hear all my cries and laughter at once, so I can see that my joy and pain are one. Please call me by my true names, so that I can wake up, and the door of my heart could be left open, the door of compassion." As Thich Nhat Hanh says, we are here to awaken from the illusion of our separateness. What would it be like to emerge from this illusion of our separateness? Poet Joy Harjo writes, "Remember, you are all people, and all people are you. Remember, you are this universe, and this universe is you." William Schultz wrote in our chalice lighting for this morning, "We affirm that every one of us is held in creation's hand, a part of the interdependent cosmic web, that no one is saved until we all are saved, where all means the whole of creation." These Buddhist, Native American, and Universalist sources affirm the interconnectedness and interdependence of all. Ecology gives us the same message of our own interconnectedness and interdependence. It is a deeply spiritual and deeply ecological way of seeing. I was struck and even a little bit surprised by an editorial written by Inger Anderson, who is the executive director of the United Nations Environmental Program, and who I read from during my opening words this morning. She speaks challenging words, and she speaks challenging words about not forgetting the interconnection of all of us. She says, "COVID-19 is by no means a silver lining for the environment. Visible, positive impacts, whether through improved air quality or reduced greenhouse gas emissions, are but temporary, because they come on the back of tragic economic harm and human distress. This is no one's model of environmental response, least of all an environmentalist's. Any positive impact, she says, any positive environmental impact in the wake of this abhorrent pandemic must therefore be in our changing our production and consumption habits towards cleaner and greener. I think what she is pointing to is this truth that climate change hits us all, but it's the poor who it hits a whole lot harder, just as COVID-19 hits us all, but it's the poor who are hit a whole lot harder. And so as we think, we need to think not just individually, but systemically. We need to think about the entire system. It's my hope that from the current crisis, by which I mean both the virus crisis and the climate change crisis, might emerge an even deeper awareness of our dependence on one another and on the earth that is our home. That we depend on the nurse and the teacher, the grocer and the farmer, just as we depend on the field and the forest, the ocean and the air, the soil and the rain. What might emerge if we did not focus upon our separateness, but instead recognized the need for a system that serves us all, rather than serving a few at the expense of the many? What might emerge if we took the energy, the worry that we feel about our own personal purity, and instead of trying to deny our connection to the system, declared the need for a new system, an emerging system, a system that might emerge based in justice for and respect for all life. I might say I'm dreaming big, but Earth Day is a dream. Earth Day is a day for dreaming big dreams. Don't be afraid of dreaming big dreams right now. They are needed. You are needed. We are needed. That is the truth of our interdependence. Amen. Shalom. Happy Earth Day, and I love you.